gotta let me show ya. Nigeria, Bioko Island, Liberia, I wanna know ya. Cameroon, Guinea-Bissau, Sierra Leone, gotta let me show ya. Nigeria, Bioko Island, Liberia, I wanna know ya. Let it all hang out. DNA brings cigar people out. The artistic, so gifted. African ancestry gets it. Yes, they black owned for the people. In the roots, they will find your sequel. Genetic test in the process, peaceful. Reunite, multiply with your equals. Black scientists, research it. Invest in that time, you're worth it. Experience feels so perfect. Get on the right path to your purpose. No other in the industry like this. Find your link to a tribe, precise kit. Mende people, Mendenga, Volanta, the house. I wanna know ya. Cameroon, Guinea-Bissau, Sierra Leone, gotta let me show ya. Nigeria, Bioko Island, Liberia, I wanna know ya. Cameroon, Guinea-Bissau, Sierra Leone, gotta let me show ya. Nigeria, Bioko Island, Liberia, I wanna know ya. AfricanAncestry.com, the pioneers in genetic tracing for black people. Since 2003, doing what no other in the industry can do by tracing your DNA to the present day African country, ethnic group, or tribe. What better time than now to find out where you came from? Order your kit today.
Hey everybody, what's up? What's up? Did y'all hear our new theme song? What'd you think? Hello everyone. Thank you for being here. Fancy and Adrian, Karen, Joey, Kiana, Avanti as usual. Celius, the lost African in the house. Juanita's here. Hey Drea, Christopher, Nick. Thank you for loving the intro. We debuted it yesterday on IG Live. We had a good time jamming. What's Riggy Rock? He performed it for us. Yes, that is a good idea for a ringtone. Ooh, make a note of that. Anybody know how to make ringtones? Hey, Victoria Anaisha. I hope I said that right. That's a pretty name. Mabrini, good to see you guys. Curtis in the house. How are you, everybody? I'm Gina Page, president and co-founder of AfricanAncestry.com. We are the pioneers of genetic ancestry tracing for Black people around the world. And we are on a mission to transform the way we view ourselves and the way we view Africa. And we do that by helping to restore your identity through connecting you to the continent of Africa, or I should say reconnecting you to the continent of Africa using your DNA. We are the only company in the industry that can tell you the present day African country and ethnic group that you share ancestry with. And I am delighted to be here with you on this Wednesday, July 29th. You all know I look forward to Wednesday, seeing all of your faces. Well, I guess your Facebook faces and your YouTube faces. Thank you all so much for being here. Percy's here. Victoria, okay. I'm trying to not wear my glasses, but Victoria said glad you didn't miss the live yesterday. You caught the theme song. I am so happy to see. Yeah, we're going to figure out this ringtone thing, Juanita. Welcome, Ronnie, checking in from DFW, Michael Holman. I'm glad to see you all here. So you all know we've been doing this ritual series, and we started off with Adorn, where we talked with Dr. Monty Harris about forms of a holistic approach to adornment. We talked with Ashley Company, who taught us how to wrap our heads. And then we followed Adorn with rites. So we had Aisha and Dr. Asantua on to talk about rites of passages. And no. Yeah, that was it. Wasn't it? I'm getting confused now. Then after rights, we had identity. Yes, identity with Dr. George Nelson Preston. And tonight we are talking We're talking homage. So we're going to learn about altars. Look, I'm doing all this work trying to give y'all stuff and can't even remember. King Joseph is in the house, giving y'all time to get in here. Thank you, Karen. I appreciate it. I'm hiding my twists. Y'all know how. Sisters on here know how we do. Mary Smith's in the house. Glad to see all of you all here. So our guest tonight is one of my favorite people. You all know Diallo Sumbri, who is our director of partnerships, and he holds it down with the Talk Africa Live broadcast every Monday in the African Ancestry online community. Well, this is Diallo's mother, and every time I see Diallo, I'm like, Diallo, I love your mother. She's been a traveling partner of mine. I've finagled the airlines to be able to sit next to her on a trip to Ghana. Mama Makini is in the house, and I'm so glad that she was able to join us, you all, because she has such a wealth of experience personally and professionally, and she is definitely a role model for so many people, particularly in the African-centered community, all up and down the East Coast and across the country. So she is originally from Trenton, New Jersey, and she co-founded a private pre-primary and elementary school called the African People's Action School. So you can only imagine if your mother co-founds a school called the African People's Action School, you have no choice but to be about it. Then she came to DC in 1989, and we're so glad she did, and worked as a teacher at Sankofa Fee's Watoto School. And then 10 years later, she became the founding principal of a private school for boys with special needs. And so she's an educator at heart, but not only an educator, she's a pioneering educator, because really she was the founder of almost every school that she started. And that we know a little something about pioneering here at African Ancestry. So then she's an educational consultant. She's been the conducting rites of passage programs for adolescent girls for over 25 years. We could have had her on any one of our series shows because she knows all about it. And then in 2011, she created a rites of passage program for adult women. And if you remember when Aisha and Dr. Asante were on, they talked about elder rights. She's a dancer. She's an advocate. She is now doing some restorative justice work education in the school system. She jams in oh my God, why am I drawing a blank to the fitness? Asai Fitness. She'll be in there with the youngins doing Asai Fitness. Everybody, please help me welcome our African Ancestry family member, Mama Makini. Hello.
Hello, Dr. Gina Page.
Are you over there laughing at me?
I am laughing. Thank you so much for that introduction. I did not expect all of that information to be revealed about me. Sometimes it's unnerving and it's a little uncomfortable, but it's what I've done. So thank you so much.
Absolutely. It's who you are, and it's part of who you are and what you've contributed to the community. And I think it's important for everyone to know. And I actually learned some things. So I'm glad I read it. Kalechi's in the house. Shout out to Kalechi. Yes, Barry Payton says she is phenomenal. See, we gotta let the people know who you are.
Thank you.
So, Mama Makini, I'm going to do something with you actually that I usually do on Instagram Live. I'm going to give you 3 words, and I want you to tell me the first thing that comes to mind when you hear each word, okay?
Oh, I'm terrible at this game. Go ahead.
Africa.
Motherland.
DNA.
The source to who we are.
Identity.
Critical, crucial, we need more.
See, you did really good at that. That wasn't hard.
No, it wasn't.
Now, why do you say critical, we need more?
Well, let me answer that this way. In my lifetime, I have experienced being identified as colored, Negro, lowercase n, Negro, capital N, Black, capital B, Black, lowercase b, Afro American, African American. Um, Sometimes we spelled African with a K, sometimes we spell it with a C, and then finally settling on African, and then learning that at least on my mother's side, we are Fulani from Nigeria, and getting ready to learn about my father's side soon. But uh, so identity. So what have just looking at myself, what changes did I go through as I was moving from one identifier to another? Now, while I was called all of those things, um, my family was clear about the fact that we were, whatever you called us, we were a people. We were classified as a people who had a lot of history, a lot of potential, keep pushing, keep moving. But my family, and I watched my mother and her sisters go through all of these identifier changes as well. There are some of us who are not comfortable yet with being called African or being called whatever the DNA points to. Um, Granted, we are very much Americans. It's our nationality. And when you travel, you figure out that, yeah, there are those things that I'm accustomed to having.
Yeah.
There are those cultural ways that I am accustomed to doing, participating in, that make me American. But that DNA and that ancestral memory keeps popping up. It keeps popping up. So I think that requires us to kind of get over the fact that we live here and seek out our history. How did we come here, and who were we, and how did we live before we got here? I think we have to do that for our own sanity. And so
And
I
you
is critical for me. It really is. It's crucial. Um, and we may never get back to being wholly and fully who we were, but having a sense of who we were, um, a, a, even if it's from a history book or actually visiting, as you are doing with your reunions, I think just opens up another part of our brain, a part of our spirit, just a part of our thinking.
I would agree. Now, one of the reasons why we wanted to do this ritual series is to give people insight into some of the practices and traditions that we engage in today that we may not know the history of, or we may not fully understand why. And I've noticed that the idea of altars has been growing in for lack of a better term, um, in mainstream channels. And I only say mainstream because it's gone from outside, beyond a spiritual group of people, to a broader group of Black people. Those are the channels I'm in that have become very interested in altars. And so, can you talk to us about what is an altar, and where do they come from? Why do we even deal with altars today?
Well, as always, our young people seem to hear those voices before some of us who are older. And one of the things that became popular, and I'm not sure when, was when someone was, and I'm sorry that we came up with it this way, but when someone was murdered, um,
Mm-hmm.
if you go to that site, you will now notice that there are bottles of liquor, and that liquor has actually been poured out. There are other symbols of how someone felt about that person whose life was taken in that spot. My daughter and I had a former student um, who was murdered near his house, and we went to visit the family. It may have been a day after it happened. The energy on that street was amazing, and
Mm.
the altar that had begun to be formed was amazing as well. In addition to that, his clothing was there, the bottles and balloons and whatever else. And now we're seeing something that we hadn't seen before. Um, it's not only within in our communities, but we also see these altars set up um, around the world when someone popular passes, when someone, again, with the incidents of our lives being taken, passes, altars form, and they're huge flowers. And some of those are the exact same things that you will have on your altar in your home. So an altar actually is a way of remembering our ancestors. So throughout the continent, I don't like saying always that altars are African because there are so many cultures on the continent of Africa, but throughout I'll say many cultures on the continent, ancestor veneration is an important part of any cultural group. There's a saying here that as long as we call your name, you will never be forgotten. So in addition
Mm.
to calling the name, and we call the name during libation, that's a prayer, a traditional form of prayer. We also might set up altars and have pictures of of loved ones, of close family and friends on those altars. So
Can I interject here? Because I know that we have some video of an altar that you created for an event here in DC. And I wonder if we can pull that up and have you describe to us what we're seeing. It
absolutely.
was for Dance Africa.
For Dance Africa at Dance Place. The altar was for Dance Africa while it's coming up was originally developed by Baba Ishangi for the New York Dance Africa at the Brooklyn Academy of Music. His daughter continued it here in DC, and one year she was unable to do it. And because I had helped my friend do it in New York, I stepped in and helped her out here. So I kind of expanded it. These are pictures of ancestors, people who are now ancestors, who were very supportive of African dance, not only in DC, but throughout the United States. However, this focus is primarily on DC artists, although there are a few artists here who we would say are primarily responsible for not only African traditions. That's the sister who used to set it up in New York, Mama Katunge, a good friend of mine.
Hmm.
Not only who were instrumental in dance here, but throughout the world. There's a picture of Dalijimo Kuyate, who lived here in Washington, who is from Senegal. We just saw a picture of Olatunji, whom many people recognize also as one who brought the rhythms of Africa. There is a picture of Nani Yao Paradini Zulu, who was very instrumental, along with Nana Surgeman, for not only bringing African dance, and for him, I have to say African dance because his company did dance from all over, not just from one specific place. Um, and they were investigating their African roots in the late 40s, early 50s. And Baba Chuck Davis, who actually is responsible for the development of Dance Africa, he and Baba Melvin Deal, who has the oldest dance company perhaps in the United States. Baba Melvin is not on the altar because he is still with us. Thank God for that.
Yeah.
Baba Chuck passed recently, and that's why you saw such a huge picture of him on the altar. So that altar helps us remember who these people are and recall some of the things that they did, and we remember the impact that they had on us, the impact they had on bringing and making this uh, our cultural expressions alive, shall we say? So that's a
So
altar.
what I'm hearing you say is that it's not just the establishment or the curation of an altar, but it's the intention behind it, what it is you are honoring, and being very clear and thorough about who you're honoring, why you're honoring them, and uplifting whatever that is.
Yes. The intention behind it is as important as the altar itself.
And so I noticed that altar had a lot of pictures. Now, it didn't seem to matter the size of the picture or the type of frame. It doesn't seem like you got caught up in those type of details. Am I right?
Correct. You are right. We did not. And some of those pictures actually belong to individuals who contributed their personal pictures to the altar. So no, I was not concerned about um, the frame it was in, or much of anything else. We just wanted to make certain that we had their presence on the altar.
And so that altar was created for Dance Africa, which is a big celebration for obvious reasons you described. What are some of the other, we talked about, unfortunately, those of us whose lives have been taken. What are some other instances of when you might create an altar?
So you might create an altar for a family member who has passed. That altar would be in your home. For our rites of passage organization, each person who is going through the process is asked to establish an altar, and it's always to remember and connect with ancestors. There are some of us, too many of us, who are here in America, who may only be able to go back 3 or 4 generations, but nonetheless connect with whomever you can connect with. So more often than not, it's your family that you are setting up an altar for.
Mm-hmm. And even if so, a lot of times, Mama Makini, we hear people say that they don't know who their grandparents are, their great grandparents are, and I hear this even when you're at an event and they're pouring libations and they encourage you to call out the name of an ancestor, and people just kind of look around like they don't know what to say. But you can also, I mean, an ancestor is an ancestor, and so there's so many ancestors along our continuum as Black people that it doesn't have to be a family member that you honor on your altar, right?
That's true. It doesn't have to be. I can recall, I don't have a picture now, but I can recall having a picture of Dr. Ben, one of my favorite people, whom I had the opportunity of. My daughter was taught by Dr. Ben in middle school.
Wow.
I had the opportunity of meeting him, interviewing him, and just establishing a relationship. So I used to have his picture. Dr. Clark is another favorite person of mine, Dr. John Henry Clark, whose picture I had. So no, we don't have to only call the names of family. We can also call the names of those great historical figures. Now, when some people pour libation, they will ask you to call the names of your family. And then they will ask you to call the names of those historical figures. So again, you're calling their energy. When children are present, they may hear a name that sticks with them, and they may say, "Who is Harriet Tubman? Who is Malcolm X? You know, who was Dr. Martin Luther King?" It's unfortunate, but we still have children who can't call these names, who don't know who these people were and who they are, and the energy that they still bring.
So CJ Jones asked, could you make an altar for all of the elders of our families who have passed? Okay.
Yes, you can. As a matter of fact, I'm glad that question was asked. I have a friend who lives in North Carolina, and I've gone to his house. We've done work together. Um, and he just, when it's time to work, we do it at his house. Well, every morning he asked us to join him at his altar, and his altar had pictures of his family, and other implements that come from nature, and we'll talk about that in a little while. And for a couple of family members who the only information he had were their names, he had their names written on a card. And so we can also do that. And yes, you can certainly put pictures and or names of the elders who have transitioned in your family. There are some of us who would uh, ask you to exercise caution about who you're calling or whose picture is there. Someone who may have been unresolved with who they were in life, and who may be that same way on the other side in that spiritual realm. And so I've heard reports of things happening in a household, and people not knowing why they're happening, and they may end up going back to their altar and figuring it out because they're listening and they're hearing the message. Now I know some of this for some people will sound a little strange, but we are so connected. We're connected. And we're connected to that spiritual side. We're connected to nature, and unfortunately, we have forgotten that. We've forgotten just how connected we are. So we are reminded very often just to put our feet in the soil because we are a part of nature, and so it's not unusual for those things to happen when in fact you've opened yourself up and accept that we are all a part of this cosmos. And so there are different realms.
And they say, you know, every old person isn't an elder, so
Yes,
you
that is
just have to be discerning about who you honor on your altar. So speaking of altars, you have so graciously, because someone asked, actually, I think it was Monique, you can oh, okay, should an altar just consist of pictures of our family or other items as well? And you have graciously decided to show us the basics of building an altar. So why don't we go to that?
we will. Thank
Okay.
you. And so what I have here, as a matter of fact, I'm going to turn this and just show you. Yeah, this is a picture of our family and ancestral altar. First and foremost, you can see that it is in an alcove in our living room.
Oops.
So
Sorry.
it's out of traffic, a heavy traffic area. It's pushed
Yeah.
aside so that okay, I can show it again. It's pushed aside so
Um,
there's not a lot of heavy traffic.
right. Okay.
So we have pictures and we have all kinds of other things that may have been favorites of the person who is on our altar. And then what I have here, oh, great. Okay, so what I have here is, yeah, I'm setting up, just demonstrating how you might set up a basic altar. A basic altar ought to consist of a candle, a 7-day candle. I've placed the 7-day candle in, and again, a candle that's not scented in a glass container that you can find in lots of grocery stores. So just a plain white candle, and I put it in a bowl. So that's for safety purposes. You can put it in a bowl. You can put it in some other vessel and keep that there. And when you light the candle, it can stay lit for 7 days. If you are a little nervous about leaving a candle lit, no problem. If you leave the house, put the candle out by placing something over top of it, so the oxygen is no longer there and allow it to go out on its own. And when you come back, you can relight the candle. This is a wooden shelf. Most of the materials that you use should be natural materials. Again, connecting to the earth. So I know I'm going to try not to put this on something plastic. And if that's all I have, then I'm going to cover it with a white cloth. The
Now,
shelf,
what Mama McKinney, is there significance to the white cloth and the white candle? What are those colors? What does white represent?
so in many cultures, white just represents things that are pure. Very simple. Um, And yes, so I have a white bowl, white candle, white cloth, white shelf. And along with this, a very simple altar is place a glass of water, not a cup, plastic cup, but a clear glass of water, and that can be placed alongside the candle. You will notice that I'm using spring water, and some people change the water daily. Some people change the water when they change the candle. Feel it out. Feel it out. Don't be afraid to listen to your gut. So if you feel as if, I need to change this water every day, do it. Just do it. Don't question yourself. Do it. So I've used spring water, as I mentioned. I don't use tap water, and because I've used this water, this may be a personal preference. Um, if I was pouring libation and I didn't use all of it, if I use the water for my altar and I haven't used all of it, I may save it for this purpose, or I may offer it or pour it out outside, uh, just pour it outside into the grass or in the front of my house. Additionally, if you would like to decorate, oh, sorry, if you would like to decorate your altar with something African, other than the person's picture, then a statue works. And that statue can also go, perhaps the statue, perhaps that person, um, well, perhaps the statue will remind you of the person in some way. And so a statue is there as well. I
Mama
like,
Makini, let me ask you a question here. Sorry to interject, but Gloria wants to know, do I have to set my intentions again when I relight the candle? So if she has it lit and then she goes out and she comes back, should she set the intentions again?
you certainly can. You can say a prayer every time you light those candles. You can talk to your ancestor every time. You can say thank you as often as you like. You get up in the morning, say thank you. Before you go to bed, say thank you as often as you like. Yes, you can do that, because you are establishing a connection and energy between yourself and your ancestors. So
Okay.
again, feel it out. Don't think that I'm doing something wrong. Very often when things are new to us, we say, "Oh, I'm messing up," and then you don't do anything. But no,
Yeah.
listen to your gut, listen to your heart, and work through it. And then if you really are unsure, ask someone. It's okay. It's okay. So I love rocks. The idea that we stand on, drive on, do everything on Mother Earth, and Mother Earth supplies us with everything, makes me just really attracted to rocks. Any special kind? No. Wherever I go, I may see a rock and say, "Oh," and just pick it up because for some reason that rock spoke to me. So the rocks don't have to have any special formation. That's three, and the rocks are there. And then if you would like to put a picture of a person also on the altar, that picture is good. Now, obviously, if you're going to do elders, you have a number of them. As I mentioned, my friend has a low table. That table might be 6 to 8 feet long, and it's full of the pictures of his family members. If you would like to just do a general, if this represents all of your ancestors, that's fine. You don't need to put a picture on it. You have your water, you have your light, you have your fire, you have rocks, and of course we're surrounded by air. So the elements are there, and you have, perhaps if you have a carving, you also have wood.
Mama Makini, we have another question. Raphael wants to know, do you purchase any statue or a specific one?
Any statue. So I like this statue because it's made carved from ebony. And as we know, ebony is black on the inside. And usually people who carve, they manage to keep the outside and the inside. And it's just a beautiful hard wood. And so again, something that appeals to you is fine. There is nothing wrong with putting something like this on a general altar. For altars that are more specific or that are connected to a specific tradition, then that tradition or the teachers in that tradition will direct you as to what you should put on your altar or what you shouldn't put on your altar.
I just want to interject too for a quick second. I didn't think to bring it downstairs, but I have an altar, and at one point, I was working with a friend, and we were making chakra dolls. We just made this up. We bought some, those drawing mannequins that artists use, that the head is one section, the body is one section, the arms are in different sections, and you can move them different ways. We bought those and we decorated them in the colors of the chakra. And that was on my altar for a long time. So, it really doesn't have to be a statue. It could be, and it was made out of wood, to your point. It can be anything, any kind of figure or figurine that is meaningful to whatever it is you want to explore in your altar.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So were there any other questions? Oh, I did forget something. And the other thing that you can do on occasion is put food out. So if this was a specific altar for a specific ancestor, on that ancestor's birthday, on that ancestor's day of ascension, on that ancestor, or on any day that you think of it, you can cook that person's favorite food and sit a plate on the altar as well. In this case, the top of the altar is kind of small, so I would I'd be okay with putting a plate of food right on the first shelf of the altar.
Oh, can you push the laptop down a little so we can see that? Okay. Yep. Great.
If there are other things that perhaps you feel needs to go on the altar, you can utilize all of these shelves. I have 3 shelves. You can utilize all of those shelves for your altar.
And someone once told me that every time I eat, I could feed my altar. So that's another approach one could take.
Absolutely. So you can put each time you eat, put a little bit of your meal on a plate and put that plate at the altar. Some people will put that plate at a door, but it can also go on your altar. So you're, again, symbolically always remembering and always feeding your ancestors and feeding their spirit.
Now, I don't know if you mentioned this. I don't think so. I've been listening intently. But what about plants? When you talked about the earth.
Yes, absolutely. Plants.
Flowers. I noticed there were flowers on your Dance Africa altar.
Yes. So plants are also an important part of the altar as well. You could sit a slim vase of flowers and then change them regularly, or dried flowers, or a plant. Mm-hmm. Doesn't always have to be flowers, but yes, on the Dance Africa altar, we always have an abundance of flowers. So those things in nature that have scents that are healing, that smell good. The light, the idea of the candle and the fire is to remember that our way is always lit and our ancestors are always pushing us along the way. And again, just connecting to the earth. Of course, water, we are water, primarily water. We come in water. And water is a sustainer and giver of life. So water is extremely important.
Yeah, thank you for saying that, because Anaisha had asked the questions about that. And Adisa is on here, Mama Makini, who is says it's good to see you and to hear you.
Thanks, Adisa. One
of the many takeaways from what you've shared with us this evening, Mama Makini, is you don't need a lot of space. You don't. I think that's very important. That's a very small shelf that she's used there and was able to get pretty significant size things on there. You don't have to have such a large glass. You don't have to have such a large bowl, and you can. An altar can be wherever you want it to be. I have a friend, a shout out to Sandy Williams, who's also an African Ancestry family member. She has a traveling altar. So she travels a lot, and she put together in a small box things that she needs to have set up an altar while she's traveling. So I thought that spoke to me as someone who pre-COVID was on the road a lot.
Probably. And so you carry it with you. And I actually just recently heard about traveling altars. I believe there may be a couple of places you can get a traveling altar online. I was a little surprised, but you can make your own. So for me, putting a rock in my pocketbook, or I don't have pockets usually, but keeping it in my pocketbook is almost like having a part of an altar with me.
Yeah, it doesn't take much. The point is to have something that you can focus on as you are honoring whichever ancestor, or with honoring whatever it is you're choosing to honor with your altar. And it doesn't have to be an ancestral altar. It can be, you can have an altar for other things, right?
Well,
Or no?
let's see. What I'm wondering, what other things, you could call. I'm thinking of a vision board. That's what popped in my head when you said.
Hmm.
I'm thinking of someone who has a vision board and then specific items that support their vision for something. I don't know that I would actually call that an altar, but it could be called an altar.
Okay. Okay. And then the one last thing I wanted to touch on, this has been, drop in the comments if you've learned something today about altars from Mama Makini. I know some of you have altars, you've been dropping that in the comments, but I'd like to know if if you've gotten any insights from what she shared. When you're at the altar, Mama Makini, what should you do? Do you
So,
just sit there? What do you do?
well, when you're at the altar, my granddaughter, I would say, takes care of this altar and the altar in her room. She will pour libation at the altar. So you can sit and say a prayer. As I said before, you can sit and just say thank you. You can sit and listen. I have sat and cried. So it just depends, whatever emotion comes to you. But certainly you can sit. You can sit on the floor in front of your altar. When we come in front of our altar, we always have our shoes removed, but we do that coming into the house. And again, we don't want to bring any strange energy around into the house or into to the altar. And it's a matter of respect to come and bring yourself as close to the earth as you possibly can. But the altar is a perfect place for prayer or libation. The idea of pouring libation at the altar is a way of giving back. So if you are pouring, the basic liquid to use to pour libation is water. You don't have to use a spirit, but the use of spirits is because that distillation process strengthens a thing. You know how much stronger apple cider vinegar is than apple cider.
Hmm.
So as it sits, it gets even stronger. And so we pour spirits, that strong drink, in the sense of helping our prayer to be felt, to be heard even more. But water, because it is as powerful as it is, water can be calm, and then water can take you and everything else out. So water is very, very powerful, but water is fine as well.
Okay. I'm loving this. Lady says, I just got confirmation that I'm doing things right. Mabrini says, this is very helpful to me. Um, Cheryl says, definitely insightful. Lashandra has an altar, and she also has gotten confirmation that she's on the right track. We're getting all sorts of thanks. Here's a good question. A lady or Ladi once says, I heard that having an altar in your room isn't good.
And so I just had a discussion with someone about that. And yes, because lots of things might happen in your bedroom. And so you want to have an altar, or your ancestors may interrupt your sleep. Uh,
Mm.
so you want to have your altar in a space that is away from your bedroom, away from, as I mentioned earlier, heavy traffic. Close to the floor is good. If it's not close to the floor, that's okay. But somehow connected to the earth. But I have also heard, and I think that was, yeah, and know that it should not be in your bedroom. Now, if you have a closet in your bedroom and it's big enough to have a space for your altar, put it in the closet. Don't
Mm.
leave it out in a corner that's open.
This is so interesting. So Bashia, shout out to Bashia. I just put my glasses on so I could see the pictures. Um, she wants to know, did you speak on cleaning your altar after time? What would you recommend there?
Hey, Mama Bashia. Thank you for asking that question. But yes, so that's maintaining, that's maintenance. The altar space should be a clean, uncluttered space. And so, yes, you want to clean it um, as often as you feel necessary. So many of us dust our homes. Well, the altar is going to collect dust. If you have a cloth on the altar, you may want to take it off and wash it, bring and put it, come and put it back on your altar. If you have implements like or items like carvings, you want to come and dust those off and clean those off. So yes, it is important to keep your altar space clean. You may want to, as a matter of fact, we're in the process of doing some things with our altar, and I had the idea that I need to put the obituaries that we have. I have obituaries on my altar as well of my family members, and I want to put the obituaries um, in something. I want to get some. Okay, why am I not being able to call this
Like a
out?
plastic sleeve or something protective?
In frames or plastic sleeves so that they can stand and just be seen. So that was a thought that I had recently to use frames.
What about money?
Money too, yes. Um, you can definitely put money on the altar.
Okay. Well, this has been extremely, extremely insightful, Mama Makini. Lashandra Dupree says her grandmother loved Canadian mint whiskey, so she pours her a libation the first of each month.
Okay,
There's so many things that we can do, and the more that we know about who we are and where we come from, the more the possibilities open up for what we can do. And so I want to thank you. I know you are traveling, and I appreciate that you and your family allowed us to share this time with you, and that you showed us exactly how to create an altar and gave us that foundation for what it can be. I'm excited to go dust mine off now. And I have to be honest, now is the time when we need the altars. And I have kind of left mine hanging in a sense. So I am motivated now to get up there and recharge mine and get back. I'm telling people every week, please continue to social distance. Please continue to wear your masks. Please continue to support your immune system. And please continue to support your mental health. And I think this is a part of it. So I got to walk the talk. I can't ask people to do that and then have a crazy.
I would agree with you that this is definitely this will definitely contribute to our mental health being on the good side, on the positive side. Taking your mind off of so much and focusing on your ancestors, you are focusing on yourself. And you may learn something new just by sitting at your altar. You may remember a story that your grandmother or grandfather told you or your auntie told you. You might just remember that. And maybe that story is coming to you at that moment for a reason. So, we don't know and we can't underestimate the power of what we are thinking, feeling, and hearing.
Everybody, I'm Dr. Gina Page, president and co-founder of AfricanAncestry.com. We have been joined over these last almost an hour by Mama Makini, who has shared with us her perspective on altars and how they can help us focus on ourselves. And I appreciate your time. Thank you, Mama Makini, for being here with us.
I love you too. You got me I'm a pod woman now. I don't know how I'll be able to experience that. And also, I want to give African Ancestry a shout out because just the information, the work that you're doing is just so important. And Appeal is going to feature. Did you talk about what you're getting ready to do?
Not yet. You can share it. Thank you.
So Appeal is getting ready to start its historical cultural literacy series. The committee that I chair is responsible for lining this up. And Dr. Gina Page is going to come on and share some information about family reunions, African ancestry style, on Saturday, August 8th. So we'll be on Zoom. And
what is Appeal's website, Mama Makini?
appealinc.org.
That's what I thought. Okay.
Yes.
So yeah, everybody, please go over to appealinc.org and check out the schedule. They always have, it's a monthly, they constantly have monthly series. If you're in the DC area, you can certainly join Appeal. There's a co-op where they have the best watermelons this summer, I tell you, but also a marketplace of all Black owned businesses, supplies, paper, the dish liquid, the Bath and Body, food, you name it.
What's important about the Black Saturday Co-op is we don't just have items that Black businesses sell. We have items that Black businesses manufacture. So everything there is manufactured by us, or grown by us, manufactured out the earth. But regardless, everything there is manufactured, including the toilet tissue. Did I say that? Yeah, okay. Including the toilet tissue, you have to call it these special names. Paper towel, all of that is there for us. And every now and then we have some wonderful vegan food as well. But come check us out. Everything is on the website, appealinc.org. So we're looking forward to seeing you on the 8th, Dr. Gina.
Yes, I will be there. And I always love the energy of everything that I participate in with Appeal. So you all listen, we are here every Wednesday at 6 p.m. This is our ritual series. Tonight we talked about homage, how we can honor our ancestors. Next week we'll be talking about transitions. And so how do we honor those who pass on? And so we have two amazing guests for next week, Maisha Hyman and Anthony Browder, known as Tony Browder, will be here to keep this series going. So I hope that you'll come back next Wednesday and join us on Facebook and on YouTube. And every Tuesday and Thursday, we're on IG Live. So you can always catch us there having a conversation with an African ancestry family member. Thanks to all of you who are here, who have commented. I appreciate you. I appreciate your presence. And until we meet again, may you be happy, may you be healthy, and may you be whole. Please have a good evening.